Hello, good morning, everyone. Welcome to our webcast this morning. We about to start in a few moments. My name is Tia Hasler, and I would like to welcome you to our live webcast brought to you by CRM Dynamics, one of the largest Microsoft Gold partner in Canada, and Marketing CoPilot. So the focus of our webcast today is, are you ready for marketing automation? We're very excited to have Marie Wiese, founder of Marketing CoPilot, and Rob Triggs, our VP Sales and Marketing of CRM Dynamics, presenting for us today. The reason why we started with this topic, we are certain that some of us have been asked or faced with the following challenges: how to be one step ahead of the competition, what are the tools that we need to work smarter, not harder, and if you have a system in place but don't know if you are maximizing its potential to the fullest in order to generate lead and increase your ROI. Then what's next? So here we are, we can help. From this webinar, we hope that we can point you in the right directions on your readiness to embark in marketing automation. Without further ado, I hope you enjoy the webcast, and at this time, I would like to invite Rob and Marie to begin this presentation.
Thank you, Tia. Thanks for doing the introduction. And Marie, are you there?
I am. Good morning, everyone.
Excellent. Well, today is a great day because we've been wanting to do this presentation for quite some time, and here we are. So, Marie, would you like to introduce yourself for a minute?
I would love to. Welcome, everyone. My name is Marie Wiese, and I'm the founder of Marketing CoPilot, and we are a digital marketing agency who has helped hundreds of companies turn their websites into their best lead generation tools. And today we're doing that by helping people get marketing automation up and running for their business. We've seen a dramatic shift in the marketing function over the last 5 years in particular. And so I'm excited today to be here to talk a little bit about how to get marketing automation working properly in your organization. So thanks for having me, Rob.
Thank you for coming. My name is Rob Triggs. I'm responsible for sales and marketing for our company, CRM Dynamics. Some of you are actually customers of ours. Some of you are considering Dynamics, and some of you probably found us online and wanted to come listen to marketing automation, and you don't know who we are. So today, like Marie and Tia have said, we're going to talk about marketing automation. So the agenda really is to discuss the transformation of the sales and marketing function. So the first question to answer is really why would you do this? Why would you buy a CRM system? Why would you buy a marketing automation system? And what are you hoping to get out of that? So we're going to talk a little bit about that this morning. Also, highlight the importance of the marketing automation function. We're going to talk about how do you get started. So once you've acquired the two pieces of technology, how do you do what you need to do? And that's why we've invited Marie to help us with that. And then we'll open it up to questions and answers. Now, Tia mentioned at the beginning of the call that if you have a question, go into the GoToWebinar chat window, post your questions there throughout the entire presentation. We're going to take a tally of the questions, and we're going to do our best to answer them all at the end of the session. If we run out of time at the end, what we'll do is we know who has asked which question. We'll send you a direct email to that. We're also recording the session, so it will be posted after, and you'll be able to watch this video over and over again. So maybe you're going to have insomnia one night and you want to go to sleep. You can actually watch this again. Okay, let's get started. So I like to call this stop losing leads. So every business out there, whether you're B2B, B2C, you're trying to sell what you sell, whether you have an inbound sales model, an outbound sales model, a direct approach, or a little bit of each. Today, I'm just going to talk about the inbound part of it, the inbound lead generation. And to start, I'd like to talk about 3 facts that are true. So the first fact is the buying process has changed. B2B, B2C, the buyer's at the center of the journey, and understanding that is critical. The second fact is that 50% of all leads, inbound leads, are mismanaged. And the third fact is lead nurture drives more sales at a much less cost. So these are some of the facts that are actual benefits of implementing a CRM and a robust marketing automation platform. So fact number 1, let's dig deep on that one for a second. So today, the buyer can be anywhere from 60 to 90% of the way through their buying process before they actually reach out to a vendor. So think about that for a minute. So all of your customers that are thinking about doing business with you, you don't even know who they are yet because they haven't reached out to you. So how are they doing that? Well, they're consuming content online, they're talking to people, and they're taking control of the buying process. They don't want to be bothered by a pesky salesperson. They don't want to be sold to. They want to digest facts and decide what they do on their own. And they can be as high as 90% of the way through that process before they actually reach out to you, which is staggering. So what are you to do as a company to try to harness this shift in the buying process? Well, you want to spend more time working on your attraction strategy, your engagement strategy, and then your conversion strategy. And we're going to talk about those today. So before we do that, though, I want to take you through something that we call the 9 stages of the business buying process. So this is a B2B model. So those of you who are on the phone that are in the B2B space, I have a slide for B2C in a second, so please don't log out. So B2B, here's the things that people do. So step 1, in any business, there's some kind of a symptom that's happening in the business. Step 2, that symptom causes some kind of pain or provides an opportunity. Once the company recognizes that, then they say, okay, there's enough here that we want to put a plan in place of what we should do. Now, stop there for a second. If you're able to intervene at this stage, at any of these first 3 stages, you have your highest probability of being able to influence what that customer does. Now, then once they put a plan in place, now they start researching solutions, then they research suppliers, they might have a formal RFI, RFP process, then they select a vendor, they negotiate terms and buy. Okay, so that's typically what happens in the B2B decision process. Now, if we look at the B2C model, it's similar, but what they do, or you do, is a problem or opportunity emerges. Their problem or opportunity is recognized. Now, the difference between those two things are lots of companies have problems and issues, but until you recognize it, you don't really do anything about it, right? So then the next step is they start an information search. So this is where if you're going to go buy a TV as a B2C person, you've decided you need a bigger TV to watch the Super Bowl maybe when it's out next time. So you decide to go to a website to find out what TV you might want to get and that type of thing. So the same thing here. If you were to interact or intervene with a B2C customer that is in any of these first 3 stages, you have your highest ability to influence what they do. And then once they've decided what they're going to do, they evaluate the alternatives that are available, they make a purchase decision, and they purchase. And then in the B2C world, post-purchase evaluation is much more important than it is in B2B. Now, the funny thing about B2C is they can actually do this entire transaction without involving you at all, right? So how many of you have gone to Amazon and ordered something? I just ordered 2 inflatable kayaks from Amazon last week. So I didn't talk to anybody. They just showed up in the mail, and I've yet to blow them up and put them in the water, but I did that, and I didn't talk to anybody. I just went by reviews and things like that. So I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but as a company, you need to really think about these 2 things because you have to decide, are you B2B, are you B2C, are you both, and what do you do about this shift in the buyer journey? So if you're B2B, traditionally what we've done over the years is we've trained our sales teams on these different sales methodologies. So they're BANT, Sandler, Spin, solution selling, and a consultative selling model called Challenger Sale. And if you look, I've drawn lines across the red dotted lines. And so if you're using BANT, which is the most widely used sales methodology, you're waiting until the customer or potential customer has already entered into a formal process of buying. By then, you can't influence what they do. It's really, really hard. So all you compete on is feature and price. So if you have heard the salespeople in your company say, we lost that deal because of price, or we lost that deal because our features aren't as good, they're not selling. They're at the very bottom. Now, if you go all the way to the top, Challenger Sale, what Challenger Sale sales model does is it goes to the customer before they even recognize they have a problem, whether they're B2B, B2C, and allows you to provide a solution to them for a problem that they weren't even, it wasn't really on their radar, okay? And then the other models in between are models that people use. Let me go to the next slide. The problem with this is we said that the customer can be anywhere from 60 to 90% of the way through this process. So how in the heck are you going to influence what that buyer does if they're not talking to your salespeople? Well, that's why you need digital marketing and CRM. So fact number 2, 50% of leads are mismanaged. So what do I mean by that? Well, we've been doing an ongoing study over the last 4 years, and we've tested 2,100 companies. And out of 2,100 companies, we've submitted a lead to their website and we've measured their response. 51% never respond to us. So let me say that again. Out of 2,000 companies, we've submitted a high quality lead to their website and 51% never get back to us. That tells us that they have a digital transformation problem. They have a problem. They haven't set up their tools and their process to actually finally talk to that potential customer properly. Now, even worse than that, half don't get back to us. But the ones that do, 78% of them took more than an hour. And most of you might say, wow, an hour, if our company got back to people in an hour, we'd be happy. Well, today, with an electronic lead like that, a digital lead, you've got to be responding in 5 minutes. The research shows 5 minutes or less. For us, non-millennials, you saw my picture, so you can tell I'm not a millennial. Us non-millennials, we think of that and say, oh my God, if someone calls me back in 5 minutes, I'm going to freak out. I'm going to think they're spying on me or something. It's not true. We expect this. I had a situation where I had a furnace die in the wintertime on a Sunday, and I needed to get it fixed. And so I went online and I kept going until I could speak to someone immediately. And I found a company that had a live chat agent on their website, and I was able to book the appointment immediately. I didn't care how much it cost. I didn't care where they were. I just wanted an appointment booked. So these are important things. The other stat in here I'll touch on is we purposely don't get back to the customer the first time they reach out to us to see if they try a second time. And 88% of the time, they never try it a second time. So it's crazy. All right, so that's that. The third fact I want to talk about is if you can nurture these potential customers that are in that 60 to 90% of the process electronically, you will attract more of them to becoming customers without the high cost of salespeople having meetings and driving to customer presentations and all that stuff. You can digitally nurture them to becoming customers. And if you do this, you'll drive way more sales at much, much lower cost, okay? We call this process of sales and marketing working together smarketing. And I thought I was being really smart one day. I was in a friend's basement and I came up with that word smarketing. And it turns out that I wasn't the first one to come up with that word. So it is a known word, but what it means is sales and marketing working separately, those times are gone. We cannot do that anymore. We need sales and marketing to work as one cohesive unit. We need to be working from the same database. We need to be using tools that complement the entire sales and marketing process. So if I was to draw out a picture, the way we see it is we have CRM as the master database sitting in the center of what we do. And then we wrap a more structured sales process around that CRM implementation. And now if we do that well, we can manage upsell, cross-sell, share of wallet with our existing customers more effectively, but we can also go after net new customers in the way that we never could before. Remember that 60 to 90% thing? Now what we do is we connect the CRM database to our digital presence. So we know that the customer is deciding what they're going to do by interacting with digital content and all the different places that you stick digital content, your social channels and that type of thing. So we want to monitor what's happening there as much as we can. And today you can do that. That data of who's consuming what content, you can capture that. And that is the beginning of your new journey, your new customer acquisition journey. And then we attach a marketing automation platform to that. The marketing automation platform allows us to do email marketing, web tracking, lead scoring, and all the things you need to do to set this up on autopilot. And last but not least, we connect the CRM to your existing databases that you have. So you have information in accounting, for example, that says how many products or services did this customer purchase, and that should be part of the record that you have, so you can use that information to provide a much better experience for either the existing customer or maybe a past customer. Okay, and that's what we do. Marketing automation features are powerful. So Marie's going to go into this a little bit more, but things like email marketing, you have to have that capability. The ability to track visits to your website beyond what Google allows you to do. Nurture marketing, lead scoring. These are all important tools in the sales process of today. Okay, and it's not of tomorrow, it's today. In fact, of yesterday, really. You should be doing this now. Last but not least, and I'm going to pass it over to Marie after this slide, so she can dig more into the marketing pieces. When you have a customer, on the left-hand side of this slide, you've got those B2B, B2C decision things. So your customer is going through the process of deciding what they should do. They typically go to the web and they'll Google something. If I'm at Microsoft, I say they Bing things, but really they Google things. So they're going to Google something that they're looking for, and they'll find it. They'll find it on your social channels. They'll find it in your blog, your YouTube channel, whatever you have. Once they find that content, they inevitably come to your website to learn a little bit more. Now, on your website, you should have some kind of a live chat agent, we recommend, so that you can deal with people in real time. But if they do fill in a form or something, you need to get back to them within 5 minutes. And there's a couple of different tools on the marketing automation side. We're showcasing here that logo there, the Microsoft Dynamics Marketing, but there's also a few other ones we're going to talk about today as well. Now, once you've got that, all that data sits now in Dynamics. You can measure it, you can make decisions, you can make fact-based decisions, you can nurture them. Once you've got this set up properly, you can do what you need to do. So if anybody has any questions at this stage, I'm going to stop talking and I'm going to move it over to Marie so she can take you through the rest of the presentation. But I'm interested to know if anyone actually has a CRM database today and sort of what CRM database they're using. Are they happy with it? You know, that kind of thing. So maybe in the chat window, you can put that in there and say, I have this CRM, I have that CRM, I have this marketing automation system, I have that marketing automation system. Let us know what you have, and that'll give us a better idea of who we're talking to. And while we're switching over to Marie, I'll also say that at any time, if you wanted to talk to us, you want to set up a meeting to have a look at the technology side that you're using. That's what we do. That's what CRM Dynamics does, the technology side. We're happy to take a look at what you're using, how you might be able to use it more effectively. We have different assessments, different things we can do in that regard. Okay, so I'm going to switch over to you now, Marie, and let you take it away from here.
Thanks, Rob. I appreciate that, and thanks for that overview. And I just want to take a minute and sum up a little bit of what Rob's just said. I think the most important thing that companies are struggling right now is the shift from offline to online. And I still work with a lot of companies that want to do outbound calling, they want to do trade shows, they want to do a variety of activities that are considered offline. But at the end of the day, whether you like it or not, people are looking you up online. They're still wanting to go to your website to get information, and you can't avoid that. Even when you meet somebody in a networking situation, they're going to say, what company are you with? Where can I go look you up online? So this buyer shift to wanting to do more and more online and integrate with people without having to speak to salespeople is hugely important in the digital transformation shift that's going on right now. And companies are struggling with this because their budgets haven't caught up, their tools haven't caught up. A lot of clients that I work with are figuring out how to transition their budget from offline to online activities. Oftentimes I work with companies who say, yeah, we're not going to invest any more money in our online strategy right now. We're just going to hire more sales reps. And that's really interesting, but to me, that's leaving a lot of money on the table. Because if your best sales rep, first and foremost, is your web presence, because that's how people want to work and interact, you need to be investing just as much there as you do in hiring more salespeople in your organization. So I think a lot of companies have struggled with that. They've struggled to understand where that shift is happening. I think the other thing that they're struggling to understand is that this digital transformation of the marketing function, which is driven by the buyer, they have to empower staff to engage and maintain communications with everyone across the organization. And I like to say everyone is in marketing today. Everyone is responsible for some part of the buyer journey, and they're responsible for some part of the customer experience. And that's going to somehow come back to your online web presence, digital strategy. So I think that's another shift in thinking today that a lot of people are struggling with. Again, there's a lot of stats out there that I'm sure you can educate yourself about what is happening in the marketing automation sector. The sale of marketing automation software is expected to reach $32.6 billion by 2024. And the reason that that's interesting not just to people who sell software. But the reason that that's really interesting is that as more and more people adopt this type of software, transition their marketing function, it means your competitors are getting ahead of you. And if you don't have a clear strategy and a clear focus, you're going to get left behind. And I've even been as dramatic to say to business owners who I've watched struggle with this very issue, it is the difference between still being in business 5 years from now. If you can't get this under control, if you don't have a way of interacting with customers online before they make a purchase decision, chances are you won't be in business 5 years from now. So I think that's why we're seeing a dramatic growth in the market. North America is definitely the largest market for marketing automation software right now. And as I mentioned before, companies are struggling to shift their budgets from offline to online. Rob mentioned tech-savvy millennials are entering the commercial sector and they're demanding these tools. When you ask people, how do you want to interact? Rob's not the only one who wants a chat box on a website because he wants immediate connection. Lots of people want those tools today, and you'll hear from most millennials that if they can't text somebody on a phone or use a chat box or connect immediately, they move on to the next company. 50% of leads are mismanaged, and I want to reiterate that point that Rob was making, because this idea of you having inquiries and not doing anything with them is going to cost your business time and money. And as we've seen, the growth of social media continues to push the edges of marketing automation, and this is why we need to take a new approach. So there's sort of what I like to call a version 1 out there, and we'll talk about that in a minute, how these disparate systems people were doing. They were jumping on LinkedIn, setting up their social accounts. They were putting an email marketing platform in. And they need to move beyond V1 now, because as buyers get more sophisticated, the tools need to get more sophisticated. So I took this particular research data from Market Research Gazette, but there's a lot of information out there today to support this. So marketing automation can increase qualified leads in a business by over 400%. It can drive an increase in sales productivity, and it can definitely reduce marketing overhead. But here's the sad fact: 60% of companies are having a hard time using this tool. So I've been out talking on this subject for a long time, and in the last 2 years in particular, I started to ask the question, why are they having such a hard time with these tools? And so I hope part of what I'm going to talk about today answers that question. And I think one of the issues we have to address is this. I like to say people are purchasing a Porsche to do the job of a Hyundai. And what I mean by that is that people have rushed out to buy software, but they're using it still like MailChimp. They're spending, upwards of $2,500 a month on a tool, but they're still just using it as a glorified email marketing platform. And that's causing problems for organizations, because first and foremost, it's not getting integrated into the sales function in the right way. There's data that's not getting tracked appropriately, and if all you're doing is pushing out email, you might as well use a $50 a month product to do that. There's no point having marketing automation if that's all that's happening. So I think I'm seeing this problem in the market that people have purchased expensive tools and they're not using them to their fullest. So why is marketing automation so difficult? Well, I think first and foremost, people lack an understanding of the buyer journey and how to map it to a website and into tools. And this idea of how does, and Rob's funnel referenced that at the beginning of the presentation, how does the buyer think about what they're purchasing? And when they go from, what really is my problem? What are all the different options I have to understand that problem? How can I start to shortlist my choices? At each step in that process are probably 10 questions they have, and they want to find content that supports them. And if you haven't thought through that buyer journey, then you haven't thought through the content to support them, and you haven't thought through how it's going to map to your website or to your process. The second issue that we've seen is that a lot of companies lack internal agreement on where marketing ends and where sales begins. And recently we've worked with some Microsoft Dynamics clients that had to really be clear between both sides of the house about what is the actual trigger that will indicate a qualified lead. And when that happens on the website or within the marketing automation system, then that lead is now ready to go to sales. But until that happens, it has to stay with marketing, because it's way more cost effective for marketing to manage that lead than it is to send it over to sales before the person is ready. And again, that's where the process and the content and all that goodness needs to live in a marketing automation system, so that your salespeople aren't chasing leads that aren't qualified or aren't ready. A lot of times organizations lack agreement on what their lead generation strategy is going to be. And again, they lack agreement because they don't have clearly defined goals and objectives. So saying we just want to increase leads is vague and open-ended, but we need to ask the right questions to figure out the real goals and objectives. And of course, number 5, and the one that's near and dear to my heart, is that a lot of times people lack compelling content to actually be able to move somebody to the next stage in a buyer journey. And without that compelling content, because we can't just talk about features and functions anymore, that's table stakes. The what the product does is not as nearly as interesting to a buyer today as why it matters to them and their personal problem. So those are the things we have to start getting better at. So how can you get ready for this shift? So if you're on the call today, and I don't know whether you're in marketing, I don't know whether you're in sales, I don't know whether you're the CRM administrator, maybe you're the IT department, I'm going to touch on each one of those areas. But regardless of what department you're at in the organization, you have to stop talking about technology and start getting agreement on business goals, because that's the first thing everybody has to come to the table and agree on. And I oftentimes work with marketing groups who say, well, we're not sure what our overall goals are for the year. And that makes it really hard to reverse engineer how you're going to use a marketing automation tool if there is an agreement on that. Stop talking about the number of leads you want to generate and start talking about the process and stages of the lead cycle, so that you know in each part of the lead cycle what you need to beef up. And stop talking about features and functions and start discussing who's going to use the tool and what they need to do with it. This is how you can start to get ready. This is how you can shift your thinking. So here's what marketers care about. If you're on the call today and you're the IT department and you want to know, I've got to get my marketing team on side for the right technology tools, marketers care about products that are easy to use and change. They don't want to have to go to the IT department every time there's a page change required on the website, or a new form has to be developed to support a new conversion path or conversion strategy. They want tools that easily map to the website. They want something that supports the deployment of the brand. They want something that's going to do all the most popular digital functions, and they don't want to have to go out and start buying tools. You know, I talk to companies who start to do an inventory of everything they're paying for on a monthly basis, and they get frightened. They're like, why do we have all these different tools? Why can't we do everything in one place? And they also want certainty of deliverability. And what I mean by that is they want to know when they hit send on something that it is actually sending and doing what it's supposed to do, and it can all be tracked and measured. And I think that's really important. If you're the CRM administrator or you're inside sales, what you care about is unnecessary setup. You don't want to have to replicate processes that you've already put in place. You don't want to have to change anything once that setup is there and ready to go. And I know we always have to continue to tweak and adjust and evolve, but it's a real headache to have to repeat processes. And you want a place to put leads and know something's actually happening with them. That stat that Rob talked about at the beginning about how we don't nurture 50% of the leads and we don't do a second follow-up, that's the brilliance of marketing automation, that those things are happening automatically. And we don't have to worry about whether somebody manually entered something that came in over the website into another list over here, which then allowed you to do an email over here. And if that name didn't go in there, that person's not receiving anything. You want to know that something is actually happening. And if you're the IT department, so marketers, if you're on the call today and you need to go back and talk to your marketing team, your technology team doesn't want a new piece of technology that they have to learn and support. They don't want to have to do more work in the CRM to get the MA tool working. And they want software that fits into the technology roadmap and architecture. And that's why we're going to talk about the Dynamics marketing tool, and we're going to talk about how that fits into your picture. So how do we pull it all together? I'm going to take the next 10 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes, and just talk about how you need to think about pulling it together and mapping it correctly. So At Marketing CoPilot, we believe, and I know CRM Dynamics, the team at CRM Dynamics shares our feeling on this, that we think the recipe for success is people, technology, and process. So having the right skills to, first of all, document the buyer persona and the buyer journey and be able to map it correctly. You need people on board to help you with that. And then that alignment between the CRM and marketing automation, how they search and engage, how that tool set comes together, and why native integration is so important. Then you can talk about the technology, but most importantly, it's the process. How are you going to attract, engage, and delight people, and not just mass market, not just batch and blast, because the days of batching and blasting are over. Buyers won't put up with it anymore. So this is the recipe for success in order to align marketing with business goals and get the sales results you're looking for. So Rob talked a little bit about the funnel, and in the marketing world, this is traditionally what the old sales funnel would have looked like from a marketing perspective, that maybe you're doing things like buying email lists, maybe you're doing some AdWords, maybe you've got some PR programs going on, maybe you're doing some trade shows, maybe you're doing mass advertising, I don't know, but the idea is that you're doing this broadcast at the top, this mass marketing that you hope will bring people to you, and that once they're to you, you can start to qualify them. And unfortunately, what happens is we're chasing these leads. Are you ready to buy? Are you ready to buy? And we're trying to qualify people, and we're hoping it drops into closed deals. I believe that the new funnel is not a new funnel, and we've proven this in a lot of tests that we've worked today. It's not a funnel at all. It's a pyramid. And that base of the pyramid starts with the understanding of your ideal customer, and you can't do that without CRM information. You can't do that without tracking what's happening at the front end of your web presence. And it's not just about Google Analytics telling you what your traffic is that day, or your bounce rate, or how many followers you have on Twitter. That adds no business value to the company if it can't be tracked as to what people are actually doing on your website and how they're engaging with your content. That starts to add business value, because that tells us where they are in the buyer journey and in this, and where we can put them now in the sales process. So you have to start with your ideal customer as the base. You have to model that ideal customer. Who do I want? Because now I have to know where they're looking for information, what questions they're asking, and where they're engaging in that content online, whether it's through social or influencer or SEO or blog content. They then will drop into something that helps me establish my unique value proposition, whether it's sponsored content on LinkedIn I've done, or I've done a particularly powerful pay-per-click campaign that's driven to some offer of content. But now it's starting to establish it, see who cares about it. If I've done a good enough job with my content, they'll share that. That puts them into some type of lead nurturing protocol that then puts them into a sales conversation, because they're well into the sales process, that then helps me qualify leads, get quality leads, and get to close deals. So the online buying process has flipped this funnel around. And so by establishing this pyramid and mapping our tool against this type of process makes it better. So that's why we have to move away from these random marketing tools that we've got all over the place. Maybe we've got some social stuff. Maybe we've bought a product to do landing pages. Maybe we've got an automated tool that generates posts on a regular basis. All that stuff sitting in disparate places without integrated approach to what people are doing means we're just batching and blasting. We're just continuing to blast it out, hope something sticks, and drive the traffic back. This is why we need to get to this more sophisticated view of how we're going to communicate and build that base. So I believe the new sales funnel is not a funnel at all. It's a wheel that we're continually fine-tuning, tweaking, and testing around building awareness, creating engagement with specific content or specific activities that we can bring them to, and then delighting that customer because now they've either in the process of buying or have bought, and now they're out telling other people and engaging with our content to share and make people aware all over again of the importance of what we've done from a product or service perspective. And this is where this continual tweaking of the wheel can only be done correctly when there's tools in place like marketing automation behind it. And marketing automation is what brings elements of these things to light, because it gives us the data to know whether things are working or not working, and it creates a complete picture that we can work from as a marketer, as a sales team, even as an IT department, to decide whether or not we're getting to that ultimate goal of demand generation, nurturing leads, and getting people into a sales funnel. Now I'm going to chunk out this next example in a little bit more detail in case you're struggling to see this on the screen. I get a lot of really great data from Marketing Sherpa and Mech Labs, and they're the brains behind this prospect conclusion example. And I'm going to just walk through it so you can understand where marketing automation really becomes important. But they've put together this prospect conclusion example, and I think this works in a B2B or a B2C place. And I think it's really important to understand that as a buyer moves through the journey, they might come to your website after they've heard about you, or they've been referred, or they've heard somebody talk about you, and then they'll return, hopefully. Then they might opt into email because they downloaded or clicked on something. They might then be put into a lead nurturing stream, which goes to one-to-one email interactions and goes to a sales call. So I'm just going to walk through this example in a little bit more detail to show you why marketing automation mapped to this is so important. So when somebody comes to the website for the first time, they say, I want to learn about what your company can offer me. I want to know what your value prop is. I want to know why it's important I engage with your company. And oftentimes people are hitting a website, and if they don't immediately hit the contact us form or do something, they're gone. We don't know who they were. We don't know what was going on there. But today, with our marketing automation tools properly running, the minute we're able to identify an email address, we can tag it to that web visitor to understand, were they there before? Have they been here? Have they consumed content? What have they done? And if we don't know who they are because they're anonymous, or they're blocking themselves, or we're not exactly sure, where we take them through the path on the website is really important to get them to take an action. So that new website visit and how they work through our content becomes very important, and the tracking of that in marketing automation is really, really important. We can't do that in Google Analytics. We can't do it with an email marketing tool. All we can do is drive traffic to a front door. Only a marketing automation tool can, and sorry, I don't know if I said that incorrectly, an email marketing tool can't do this for us. Only a marketing automation tool can track what's happening on the website in a way that information can be sent and mapped against whether we know them, don't know them, lead, not a lead, what have they done before, what are they doing now. So Google Analytics can't do that. Email marketing into itself, social media can't do that. Nothing we have today other than marketing automation allows us to really get into the nitty-gritty of that. So then they say, I want to know that you've gotten results in the area I'm interested in. So we want to know what pages they're clicking on, and not just are they staying, but did they convert to something in that area. Then maybe they've come back to the website. Maybe they went away and talked to their manager and said, I'm thinking of doing this, or maybe they went and talked to their spouse. I'm thinking of buying this. And then they do a return visit, and maybe they're going to look up reviews online. Maybe they're looking to make connections on LinkedIn. And then they want to know, is it possible that you can help me achieve something? And if it is, maybe now they've opted into email. Maybe they've now started to follow you on LinkedIn. Maybe they're making some connection because they now want to know, why is it important to my situation? And is what you have repeatable? And this is where you're trying to bring them into some kind of automated process of being able to now send out regular content to them on the problems that matter to them so that they'll engage with you. And then you want to know if it's urgent. Why should I focus on this now? So maybe you've got some timely offers. Maybe you've got some content on your site that allows them to understand timing or process. And those are the things that you want tracked, and you want that information in a system. Then you want to move them up to potentially one-to-one email interactions. Now they've reached out. Now they have specific questions. Now you're helping them. And again, you want all those email interactions tracked, because chances are if one person's asking that question, other people are. So you want to know, how popular is this content? How important is this information in moving them up the funnel? I want to know that you clearly understand my problem and you can lead my thinking with the best objective to solve it. And those are the types of content and places on the site that you might be using video content to see if they're interested in how something works. Maybe you're using a special download on how to execute this correctly in your home or office. There's lots of different places where you're starting to see how can I mimic the sales dialogue online and track and measure that information. I want to know how much it costs. One of the most important pages on somebody's website that many people don't spend time working on. They know in their head, I want to know if it costs, how much it costs, and sometimes they don't want to know that. They don't want to have to speak to a salesperson to know that. They want to know it on their own. They want to see, can I afford this? And so those are things you can trick out as well through different tools that you're using that are all tracked in marketing automation. And then when it gets to a sales call, they want a statement of work, they want specific things. Now you want to know, have we ever quoted to this customer before? Have we sent them something in the past? And that's why it's so important that your marketing automation tie really closely to your CRM data. So that whole journey that we're taking people through is really important today. And Rob, I'm going to ask you to jump in here on this slide and talk about tools that we're seeing in the marketplace. And maybe you and I can have a conversation about what we're seeing now. If we agree that that process and that journey that's happening before the buyer gets to a salesperson is important to track, and that true marketing automation is the only way to get you there. We know that if you're in the Dynamics community, there's different products you can be looking at today. And Rob, maybe you want to weigh in on how you think about these tools or how you want to get started with specific tools.
Yeah, it's a question we get asked a lot. Can you hear me okay?
I can.
Yeah. So so for those of you on the line, if you're already on Dynamics or thinking about Dynamics as your CRM database, then you have an opportunity to do something that you can't do with any other CRM platform. And that is have your marketing automation tool sit inside of your CRM database. And so the two options you have are the Microsoft Dynamics Marketing Platform and ClickDimensions. So ClickDimensions, we're a very large partner at ClickDimensions, and we've implemented lots of solutions over the last, 3, 4, or 5 years, I guess now. And it sits inside of the CRM database and allows you to do all of the functions we talked about on this call. But the reason why we like it, because it's built into the database, is any interaction you have with that potential customer, that data is brought into CRM natively, and it's there so that you can make decisions on it, you can automate things. Microsoft also has a product called Microsoft Dynamics Marketing, and it also sits inside the Dynamics database, and it allows you to do those things too. So you have two options in that regard. Now, all the other marketing automation platforms, and there's tons of them, we just put a couple there, but there's HubSpot and Marketo and on and on and on. So you can use those tools. If you're a marketing organization that's already using a marketing automation tool, you don't have the desire to move off of it, we can connect it to the CRM database and give you the capability to do all the things we talked about today. It's just a little bit harder because you have to sync the two systems together so that the data is matched, okay? So if you're in the fortunate position where you are either on Salesforce or you're looking at Salesforce or Dynamics and you're going to make a Dynamics decision, then you have the awesome capability to add your marketing automation platform into your database, which is awesome. And your two options are Dynamics Marketing or ClickDimensions. For the rest of you, if you are on moving to Dynamics and you want to keep the marketing automation tool, then we just have to help you build the syncing between the two databases, okay? So high level, that's the differentiation. But if you're sort of a blank slate where you can do what you want, I'll recommend Dynamics all day long, but I would recommend Dynamics as your database, and then I would recommend either Dynamics Marketing or ClickDimensions as your marketing automation platform.
So we have I'm going to put the contact back up in a second. We have some tools that we can direct you to as well. Rob, is that correct? We've got, I know that we have a guide called Getting Started with Marketing Automation, and I know that you've got an offer today for people around how to get them started. We highly encourage you to go download the guide. We'll send out a link to get that guide to help your organization figure out the process, the people, and then you can lead to that technology decision around how does the technology best sit and is best situated. As well, some of the notes in the presentation today around what you have to think about if you're IT versus sales versus marketing. I think that's really important.
Yes, please.
Oh, okay.
For questions. One of the things I'll say is if anybody wants to email me directly, rob.triggs@crmdynamics.com, you can, that lead test that we do, that we're offering that. Anyone that's on this call, we'd be happy to do that test. And we've got about 15 different parameters that we measure, and we can give you the report afterwards that says, here's what we found, here's where you can improve, and here's where, if we have the data for your industry, we can share with how do you rank in your industry. Are you better, worse, that type of thing. So that's an offer for today for anyone who wants that. Questions? Were there any questions, Tia?
Yes, we do. We have a question from Marie. Who should drive the process on marketing automation within the organization? Is it an IT department? Is it marketing? Or is it sales?
That's a great question. I think one of the things that's really important for people to think about is that marketing needs to know what their goals and objectives are, and they need to be aware of what they're trying to accomplish. So I think marketing needs to lead the process, but they can't do it successfully without including sales and IT and get together that can address people, process, and technology. A lot of times marketers get given tools to use, and that's often a stumbling block to them being able to execute successfully. On the converse to that is they bring in tools that the IT or sales team don't like because they're not integrated into the CRM. The beauty of the Dynamics marketing and the Dynamics 365 community is it's allowing this centralized database for everybody to really build their own processes on top of. So I think marketing needs to lead, here's what we need to do and why, and then they need to bring a team together of sales and IT and administration and even customer service to say, how is this going to then work seamlessly through the whole process?
Okay.
Thanks, Marie. We also have another question. What are the best practices for CRM, and what are some of the best practices for CRM and marketing integration?
So I can talk to that one. So this person asked a couple different questions. Yeah. So that one probably encapsulates both. So what are the best practices for CRM and marketing automation? So the first thing, best practice for CRM is you have to define what it is, what problem you're trying to solve by implementing a CRM system. So if it's sales, if it's marketing, if it's customer service, or all three or two, whatever it is, understand what that is you're trying to do. So what we normally see is we see companies implementing CRM because they need a more structured sales process. They need better reporting on what the sales activities are and the sales funnel is, the sales pipeline is. That's the first thing. Second thing we see is people want to do a better job of unifying their marketing, their digital marketing and sales process. Sort of that marketing word that I talked about earlier. So that's the other piece that they want to do. And the third one is customer service or support. So being able to service customers in a more efficient way and having a one view of a client. So if you have a customer today, you want to know what you're selling them, what you have sold them, any cases they have, any kind of marketing activities that they've been engaged in. So you should be able to log into your CRM system and in one screen see all that in one view. And that's really the value proposition of a CRM system. The marketing automation part now is understanding how you want to digitally market to your clients. So Marie helps clients figure that out because one of the opposite to best practices that we see is companies buy their CRM database, then they go out and they buy their best marketing automation tool that they think is right for them, and then they struggle. Like honestly, they struggle. They try to learn the features of the marketing automation platform, and they haven't given enough thought to their buyer journey, all the stuff Marie talked about today. That is so important. It's almost like saying, I'm going to go on vacation this Canada Day weekend, and I think I might go skiing, or I might go, I don't know, hiking. You have to decide what the journey is first, and then you know whether to buy skis or shoes, and then you know what I mean? So it might not be the best analogy I've ever had, but it's understanding what you're trying to do, and then the tools will help enable that. It's not the other way around. A lot of people think they buy a tool like a CRM or a marketing automation tool, and then magic happens. And sure, there might be a little bit of magic that's there that just works, but you have to think through what do you want to do, and then the tools will enable those processes. I hope that answers that question.
Great. Thank you, Rob. I think this is a good segue to the next questions that our participants have. I'm looking at a full-featured marketing automation platform. I know it can get expensive from licensing and staffing perspective. If done properly, does the marketing platform usually pay for itself through increased sales?
It does. Absolutely, it does if it's done properly. So think about this. Every time a company approaches your company, if you rely on your salespeople to stick handle that moment in time that they have with that salesperson is the only interaction that you have. Once that interaction is over, typically sales moves on to the next opportunity if they don't close, right? And that's really what the sales job is to, I always say they meet, they propose, and close. That's what they do. On the digital marketing side, if you have a proper tool, you have an opportunity now to digitally nurture all of those wonderful potential customers in a way that they are happy with. And that's the shift in the buyer journey, is they don't want to be sold to. They actually don't want to talk to your salespeople. You know, I think people want to talk to me, but maybe they don't. I'm in sales. But what they really want to do is they want answers to their questions. They want to know what others are doing in their industry and other industries. And so by using the digital marketing tools to put that content out there so your potential customers find it and then continue the relationship through nurturing, now, you know, you'll be nurturing 100, 200, 1,000, 10,000 different companies on autopilot, and they'll self-select when it's right time for them to work with you. And that's really the entire value prop of adding marketing automation. We've actually built dashboards in our own CRM system that show passive leads and direct leads. So I can show at any given time what our sales pipeline is and the revenue attribution for our digital marketing. So I can actually open up a dashboard in my Power BI dashboard or whatever in Dynamics, and I can show the executive team here how much revenue in the pipeline is associated with which campaign and which digital assets that are out there. So I can do that today. So it's very easy today to set up revenue attribution proof. So all of you marketers out there can share with the leadership team of your companies that what you're doing is either working or not working.
And I'll just add to that if I could. A lot of companies come to us to say, you know, I'm going from glorified email marketing to wanting to do marketing automation. How much is it going to cost? How long is it going to take? And what's the ROI? And what I always tell people as a rule of thumb, you need to invest in it the same way you would a sales rep, and you need to give it enough time for the engine to get running correctly. So you should budget about the same cost all in for a sales rep for a 12-month program to get it up and running and working correctly. And then to Rob's point, if you get those dashboards set up, it only takes 1 or 2 deals for it to pay for itself. And that's what most of our clients have noticed after 12 months of building the content, getting the tools running, and actively pushing stuff out and tracking it. They can usually pay for it quite quickly with 1 or 2 deals.
Exactly.
Excellent. Thanks, Marie. We have one last question. We're just at a 5 minutes mark. If we digitally nurture our client, how do we know when to have a sales rep actually reach out to prospect?
That's a great question. Not that the other but
Yeah. So can I weigh in on that? And I want to just reference a client of ours who had the exact same problem and asked the exact same question. And that was back to my comment about ensuring that you've mapped your you've mapped the buyer journey correctly. So I'll just use an example of a manufacturing client that we had who was passing leads way too soon to their sales reps, of people that they'd met at trade shows who were willing to have a conversation at a trade show, but they weren't really ready yet. We found, after figuring out the steps that the buyer goes through in order to try to decide which solution they should be using, that when they actually want to configure and design a solution, that's when they're getting really serious. They've identified a budget, they've identified a sponsor for the project, they know they want to bring the project to life within their facility. And so they wanted to design something. In the past, they would have had to have lots of calls with sales to have that conversation. So what the client did was create a configurator on their website that was a very detailed configurator that allowed you to create lots of options. It didn't necessarily price it though. And they knew once somebody took the time on that configurator to put the product together and start to figure out what they actually wanted, they knew that these people were well down the buyer journey. So they used lots of things to bring people in through email, marketing, blogging, SEO, through social. But until they actually took the time to do a number of steps in the configurator and have an outline emailed to them, that's when they knew the person was ready to have a more detailed conversation about pricing and quoting that, of which now it made sense for a sales rep to come in and provide subject matter expertise to craft the correct solution for them. So all of the activity happens in the marketing automation tool, but it doesn't get passed to the CRM and to the salesperson until somebody completes that configurator online and the document gets emailed out to the prospect. That's when sales knows to pick up the phone and call them. So it's going to be different for every organization and every sector. It's going to be different depending on who you are and who you sell to. But that's the process you have to map and decide, because once you figure that out in your organization, it's gold, because now you've taken away all the leads from the sales team that they shouldn't be working because they're not ready yet.
No, I agree. I think companies pass the lead over way too soon in most cases that we see. We actually do a sales analysis when we meet with clients to see how they're doing and what they're doing. But what I would say is depending on what you sell and how complex it is that you sell, so there's products and there's intangible solutions, which are two different sales models. So depending on what it is that your company sells, you can build in, using the tools, you can actually build in a lead score. And you can actually use a lead score to dictate when it's the right time to reach out to a customer. It's more of an art than it is a science from my point of view. But sometimes having a salesperson talking to a client will help influence them becoming a client. But it's the delicate balance between when is the right time to reach out and when it's not. So what we would do is we would take a look at, say you've got 5 different lead streams. We would look at each one. So we have, how many do we have? We have 7, I think, don't we? 6 or 7? I think we have about 7.
Yeah,
we have about 7. So what we do is we put a form on our website, and we have about 7 different ones. So we'll have a ebook download. So if you want to download one of our ebooks, what that tells us is you're a passive lead. So I don't give that to salespeople because it's passive. You're trying to learn something. But we add you to we ask you, because of Canadian anti-spam law, if we can communicate with you. And then if you say yes, we add you to our nurture list. In fact, a lot of you on this call are on that. That's why you're on this webinar. So we actually continue to send you information about webinars we're having, events we're having, really cool information like this. And then our hope is you're going to see something and you're going to see that we're a helpful company and you're going to reach out to us when the time's ready. Okay, so those are passive leads. The direct leads, an example of that would be talk to an expert, or I want a demo, or I want a quote. So those are specific forms that customers fill in. We ask them for a little bit more information on those forms, and when it comes into us, the salesperson gets it right away because it's a demo, it's a quote, whatever it is. So we have someone qualify that, and then we do the demo or quote or talk to an expert. So that's one way that we've done it, and it seems to work quite well. Again, it depends on what it is you sell and the different types of streams that you would set up. Hopefully that's a helpful.
Yep.
Was that the last one?
Excellent. Yep, that was the last question. Well,
so I think that's it then. So that's the end of our webinar. We're going to be posting the video, the recording of the webinar on our YouTube channel at serumdynamics.com. Marie, do you have any closing comments for the session today?
No, I just invite people to go get our guide off the homepage of our website, Getting Started with Marketing Automation. I think it's got some useful information in there to get people going.
Mm-hmm. What I'd say, I'm the sales guy, so I'm always selling, I guess. But what I would say is, please reach out to us if you're uncertain what to do. Both of us, Marie, myself, Rob Triggs, we're very friendly. We're not going to try to sell you anything. We know this can be difficult. It's not the kind of thing you do on your own. We were joking around before the session. It's like when you have a cavity in your tooth, you don't go in the garage and pull your tooth out with a pair of pliers. At least I hope you don't. And then we talked about the movie Castaway. Castaway? I think it was Castaway with what's his name? Tom Hanks, where he gets a bad tooth, so he knocks his tooth out with a skate. But he had no choice. He was all alone on a desert island. You're not on a desert island. You have help. So we're glad to answer your questions, glad to give you some guidance. And if it turns out one day that we get to work together and do business together, then that's awesome. But if not, at least we were able to help direct you. So please don't hesitate to reach out. We'd love to help you.
Thank you, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
Take care.